Continue to read Daniel chapter 3, the image of gold in the fury furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 90 feet high and 9 feet wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image he had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the other provincial officials assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, "This is what you are commanded to do. O peoples, nations, and men of every language, as soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." Therefore, as soon as they heard, this is really interesting. Really, I just want you to take note of this because people miss this too. Because the Lord likes to reverse things, turn things around. Look what happened in the book of Esther. And we'll talk about this again in the New Testament, but take note of what just was said about how if they don't worship this thing, they're going to in the fiery furnace. And we'll get back to that again. Let's continue to read because there is so much here. Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and all kinds of music, all the peoples, nations, and men of every language fell down and worshipped the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You have issued a decree, O king, that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, O king. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual, and commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So these men, wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the blazing furnace. The king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, O king." He said, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth looks like a son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them. They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their head singed. Their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble. For no other God can save in this way. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Okay. So there's a point to be made. So take note of this portion right here and just hold on to it till we get to the New Testament, all the way to Revelation. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. Okay. So now that has so we'll get to that a point at a later time. Just take note, because this is something that is there. Nebuchadnezzar's forcing the people to worship his created image, and this is shown. And a lot of Bible scholars and people believe that, and it's understood that this is maybe a test for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And as you can see, they were prepared in their faith. They were prepared so much so that this is how strong that they felt. This is how strong they felt. Listen to what they say. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are, because they know the battle's not theirs, it's the Lord's. They already know. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to save us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand. So not only will they be saved from the fire, but whatever repercussions are to come, or whatever, if it is, the king's going to be very angry that they didn't burn up, whatever actions he's going to take afterwards, whatever wickedness he has planned for them, the Lord will protect them. Not only will he protect them from this fire, but he will continually protect them. That's what kind of faith they had. They understood it. They also knew that they have a just God. They also knew that, hey, but even if he does not, we want you to know, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up, because they know that their Lord will save them. They know that it is not right, for the commandment says, and thou shalt not worship any other God besides me. And that's what they were following. That's the part of the law. That is part of what their knowledge of the Lord is. They understood that. They had faith in the Lord. So what happens with that faith, with that, I know the Lord's here. I know I need to search for him. I need to reach for him. I need to be guided by him, because he is a good shepherd. They walk around. They get thrown into this fire. That people who were throwing them into the fire burn up. They are just fine. Not only are they just fine, but they are unbound. They walk around in the fire. There's nothing happening. They come out. The king was so shocked and amazed. When we lean on the Lord, bringing past to present, when we lean on the Lord, amazing things can happen. And that is a similar reaction. People are shocked and amazed. And they want to know, how did this happen? Was this something that was not of this world? Was this something beyond our imagination? And that provides us an opportunity to answer. Yes, we have a living God. You have a living God. We have our God and Savior. And you too can have a relationship with Him because He goes above and beyond in all things. Before we go on, though, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind when we read over this? How does it make you feel and what does it make you think?